Hello everyone, for those new here, my name is Julie and I co-own Fandia Fabrics. I also own Creative Coyote where I actually do all my sewing through. Today we're doing another sew along. This is the Ymir Skull Wallet. The pattern is by Diamonds and Coal. If you are part of our Facebook sew along group, that's great. You got the pattern with our discount code. If you're not part of our sew along group, go ahead and join before the end of the week to get that code still. Today we're doing day 2, but I just want to summarize day 1 because there was no video for day 1. So if you haven't done all your prep work, go ahead and pause here and go back and do your prep work. But I'm just going to review that real quick. So basically you cut out all your pattern pieces, and if you're going to edge paint, you're going to edge paint in the skull's eye and nose. And also the tops of all the card slots and the slip pockets. Okay, so if you haven't done that and want to do that, the edge painting is completely optional, but if you haven't done that and want to, go ahead and pause and go do that, and then come back and we'll do day 2. So first we're going to start with the zipper pocket lining piece, and just so you're paying attention, this is not interface, just the cotton woven, okay, or quilting cotton. And we're going to use the pattern piece, which again I don't show here, to cut the slit and the 2 V's at the end of the line, okay, for a zipper. So normal, so use the pattern piece to cut this slit out, and make sure it's placed correctly and nice and straight. You can cut it in the paper first and mark it, but just make sure you have a nice clean cut, okay? And then what we're going to do is take some double-sided tape and hold it over. You can also use glue, you can also iron it. I'm going to use double-sided tape. I have what they refer to as basting tape. So super light hold double-sided tape. I think I got it off Amazon. It's it works for what I need it to do. But we're just gonna go ahead and place this on all 4 sides, including the little V cutout, okay? And then before you take the backing off, just go ahead and check it's placed. Obviously this one is not placed correctly, so go ahead and place it correctly. Make sure it's where you want it to be. I'm going to move this one too. There we go. And then again, this is basting tape, so I have to like really press it in to make sure it stays when I pull the backing off. But you're going to go ahead and take it off and fold it back onto itself, and then you're going to make sure that it's as even as possible when folding it. So it's a little difficult or a little tricky, but make sure it's as even as possible. Like as you're folding over the same amount across the whole way, okay? So if you're not happy with how this looks here, go ahead and adjust it. And I'm actually going to adjust mine because as you can tell it's off. It's folded just a little too much right there. So I'm going to refold it smaller so it's much more even, and then just check it again. But once you're happy with it, go ahead and set this piece aside, and we're going to move on to the next step. So here we're going to grab your piece A, which is the exterior, as well as the applique piece, which goes back here, and you sew around. But to go ahead and hold it in place, we're going to grab some double-sided tape. You could also use glue if you wanted. Just be careful because some glues leave a residue, so you'll see it if it kind of leaks into where the holes would be. You'd see it on the other side. So I'm just putting some double-sided tape down here and use that to hold it in place. So go ahead and press down firmly so it stays attached. So when you sew around both of these pieces, it's going to just stay there. If you want, you can use a white gel pen or any other colored gel pen. Just test it on a scrap piece first to make sure that it will come off nice and clean. My preference is white gel pens on any vinyl that it will come off, or rather show up on. You can remove it with water, like on a cotton ball or a Q-tip. Also, a baby wipe. So you can just mark it if you'd like to. Either way, go ahead and take this over to your machine and we'll go ahead and sew. At your machine, you're going to make sure you have long threads at the end because we're going to pull them back and tie them off. Also, I recommend for such a tight corner, like on the nose, for like a 3-stitch length, but you can use a longer stitch length if you would like. But you're just gonna go ahead and find whatever position is more comfortable for you to start. So if you want to hand crank your machine around, that's totally fine. Some of these parts I'm going one stitch at a time and stopping and adjusting. And when you adjust, you always want to make sure the needle is down in your material. Okay, so just go slow and steady, and it'll look really, really nice. Just make sure you're even spaced. So like whatever distance you start away from the hole, you stay that distance. When you get close to where you started, I like to go ahead and pull the back thread and top thread out of the way so they don't get tangled up in the back and just create a nest. Okay. Also, I go even slower here and just really pay attention because I'm going to stop about 1 stitch length away from where I started so that it perfectly meets up, and I'll do that manually, by hand stitching and just pulling those threads back anyway. That way, there's no, it's not off, like they're not crooked for each other. So I go ahead and trim my threads so they have a nice clean edge to go into the sewing needle. So once all your threads are back, we're going to go ahead and tie them off. Some people burn them after tying them, some people glue them. I just tie them 2 or 3 times, and I've never had an issue, but do what you are comfortable with. And now you're going to repeat for the eye or nose if you started with the eye last time. And again, making sure you leave long threads and just slow and steady. This one, I definitely pivoted a lot more than on the nose. Okay, so just pay attention. Sometimes the more you pivot, the more natural a curve is going to be, instead of having kind of sharp angles. Okay, so slow and steady, one stitch at a time. You'll be fine. So once you finish sewing and tie them off, this is what you should have. And now we're going to trim off this excess material here, just because it's unneeded. So go ahead and trim that off, and then we'll move on to the next part. So this is what it looks like when it's all trimmed. Yours may look a little different, but what you're going to need now is double-sided tape, your zipper, and your zipper panel lining. So you're going to want to put double-sided tape on both sides of your zipper. So go ahead and do that. And here you're going to want to think about which direction you want this pocket to open, okay? So when you fold the wallet, or when the wallet is put together, it's going to look like this, and that's kind of where the zipper pocket's going to be. It's on the back side. So do you want it open that way or that way? It's completely your choice. It will not affect construction, except which direction you put it in. I want it to open left to right, so that's the way I'm going to put it in. Here you want to center your zipper, and if you need to rearrange several times, go ahead and do so. I had to rearrange a couple times. You want to make sure there's enough of the zipper tape on both sides of that zipper box, to make sure you grab it when you go ahead and top stitch it later. Once your zipper is how you like it to be, go ahead and flip this panel over and grab some double-sided tape as well as your zipper lining, your zipper pocket lining, and place double-sided tape on all four sides of your zipper tape here. And then you're going to place the zipper pocket lining right side up on top of this and make sure that it's centered. So here you should have the zipper sandwich. Make sure it's all placed. Do not worry about any of the lining hanging over. It'll get taken care of in the next couple steps here. But now you're going to take this over to your machine and top stitch around the box here, okay? So again, I like to start with long threads. Here I use a 4 for my stitch length. It's a lot more straightforward than just applique. And so go ahead and stitch around the box. I use a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay. Again, here we're gonna pull the threads back to the back side and tie it off. Because of how close I got this, I'm gonna put them together through one hole instead of separately. So go ahead and trim the ends so they're nice and clean. Grab your needle and thread them through and tie them off. So you do want to make sure that you cut all four edges of the fabric here when you sewed your zipper box. As long as you did, you're good. If you're happy with it, go ahead and move to the next step. We're gonna go ahead and fold the zipper pocket in half and sew along the 3 raw edges. Okay, I like to match up the corners and I just clip it in place. If you want, you can press the bottom, but it's not necessary at all. But we're going to go ahead and sew the 3 edges. The other important thing is to make sure you're only sewing the fabric, not the vinyl. So I sew from this side, but it's your preference. And I just pull the vinyl back out of the way as I'm sewing. So now you're going to grab your pinking shears, if you have any, and trim this to about 1/8 inch seam allowance. They just help the fabric from fraying. You can also trim and apply something like fray check to the edges to just kind of help keep this pocket intact. So now you're going to take the two pieces of stabilizer and space them evenly. Okay, so the rectangle goes here obviously, and the skull or half skull goes here. And you're going to make sure that this is evenly lined up on this side. Like, don't worry about the inner edge, just worry about spacing it evenly. And you can go ahead and iron or glue or tape this in place if you want. If you iron it, I suggest, because this is vinyl underneath that you're attaching the Decoville to, just to make sure that you know what heat setting to use on your iron, if you need a Teflon sheet, that sort of thing. This side again, make sure you're lining up those three edges are evenly spaced. So go ahead and iron this or attach however you will. I am going to iron it, and then we'll be right back. Okay, so now that this is all ironed, I just want to make sure we're going to go ahead and attach the magnetic snap. Now I'm not going to show you the whole pattern piece out of respect, but it has markings for where to put the magnetic snaps. Make sure you're using the correct one. This is piece A, okay? And we're going to go ahead and mark those, and I'll be right back. So now that you have those marked, we're going to use the washers from our magnets to go ahead and mark the lines, because you don't want to poke a hole where the circle is, but you want to draw lines. And then we're going to take a seam ripper and cut the small lines for the magnets to go through, okay? So here we're attaching the female side of the magnet. So you want to make sure those are firmly in all the way. Okay, so make sure those are in all the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab the washer and put those on. And then some people like to add more stabilizer or scrap piece in there. This already has it, so I'm not going to. You can either fold the prongs inside or out. I like to fold them out. And then we'll put duct tape or masking tape over. I just have masking tape, so that's what I'm using. But it helps to protect it from rubbing against the other fabric. Next, you're gonna go ahead and grab piece B, which is just the long rectangle you didn't cut out the skull from. You're gonna mark again these holes for the male side of the magnetic stamp, and again, I'm not gonna show that because I don't show the whole pattern piece. So go ahead and mark those. And now that they're marked, you're gonna do the same thing you did on the other side. Except this time, because you don't have stabilizer already on this piece, you may want to go ahead and add a scrap piece of Decovil Heavy or other stabilizer of your choice to the back of these before closing the prongs, just so it gives it that extra stability like this one, okay? And this is all I have for you today. You're officially done with day 1 and 2. This is what it should look like. Thank you all for joining us on this so long. Hope to see you all tomorrow. And later this week, I'm going to go over how to do another shape on this wallet besides the skull. If you'd like to do a custom shape. I know some of you have seen a whole bunch of different shapes out there. We're going to go ahead and do a custom one and teach you how to do one too. Okay? Hope to see you all. Thank you.